Welcome to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast, the show where we discuss what it takes to create a sustainable long-term online business in today's fast-moving environment. We talk with industry experts and freelancers alike to find out what it takes to build and manage a location-independent business.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Iwo from Remote How. Iwo, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Iwo came onto my radar a little while ago where they were doing a promotion around work 1 month from Bali at our cost, and it was what I would consider a very successful marketing campaign. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do over at Remote How?
So I can introduce myself as a remote work advocate, and that is our mission as Remote How, to advocate for remote work and to help both individuals and companies go remote. We are running several initiatives that are accelerating the growth of distributed workforce worldwide. So we are the makers of the first worldwide academy on remote work that we put together with remote companies like Doist, Buffer, Envision, and like all the amazing experts from remote work are with us and helping the market grow. We are the makers of the Remote Future Summit, the largest virtual conference on remote work. 2 editions brought over 8,000 people virtually, so there was no offline location, which is also great for the environment. Amazing speakers, HubSpot, Automatic, AngelList, Microsoft. So again, top-notch experts. This is our education piece of the business. We are also helping people and companies get matched for full-time remote jobs. We are actually about to launch a platform in October that will help get this dream remote job for job seekers, as well as for companies get easy access to the talent pool, pre-vetted and remote-ready talent from all over the world. So to keep it short, our goal is to grow and help facilitating this growth of the distributed workforce. It's extremely exciting. We are also living this lifestyle. So our team is fully distributed on 3 different continents. So it's an exciting mission that we are on, and I'm really curious what the future will bring.
Yeah, it's becoming more accepted in a lot of ways. I'm a remote worker. I work for a Canadian company called Shopify Plus, who, I mean, most people at this point who are online would have heard of Shopify as an e-commerce software service. But you know, Shopify is another company that's a huge advocate for remote work and remote workers. And while they do have offices in certain countries around the world, they also have a large distributed remote workforce. So I guess it's close to my heart, the fact that, you know, you can do this, and I'm also extremely passionate about this and feel that, you know, there are pros and cons to working remote, but I mean, largely pros, to be perfectly honest with you,
yes.
versus, you know, it just comes down to, I mean, your ability to be self-motivated, how you set up your team structure and your communications. And this is where I found it very interesting. Like you were saying, you have a kind of remote work academy. So is that what this is for? Somebody who maybe works in an office and they were considering, I would like to do a remote job, but like, what would that even look like? Is that what this sort of stuff will be?
Yes and no. So this is one of the case where people are coming to us to actually get these soft skills, get these right behaviors that are necessary in the remote space. But just recently, we launched a new program for managers certified in distributed management. And when we were doing beta tests with some of the companies that are fully remote since years and really experienced remote workers, we've heard multiple times feedback like, whoa, like 40% of the stuff that you guys taught me here was like completely new to me, although I'm setting up remote teams since a couple of years, right? So it's both. And the reason why people that are in theory know already everything find a lot of value in learning about the best practices on remote work is that it was learning by doing in the past, right? So it was something new, and then you were figuring this out, right? Right now, you have quite some companies that are successful, that grew their workforce, that is fully distributed. Just to give two examples, GitLab and Automatic, both of these companies raised just this week in total $500 million at valuations of $2 and $3 billion, which clearly shows that this is a way to go, and more companies will convert into this model. I'm not saying that every company should be remote only, but at least remote friendly. So coming back to Remote How Academy, when we started late 2017 and we started like basically an initial market research and start talking with HR people, C-levels. Hey, do you think that we can meet the expectations of the workforce that needs more flexibility, freedom, that there is this whole culture shift around experience over possession, with the business challenges that you basically cannot find people because there is a talent shortage. And the answer was like, yeah, maybe, but we don't know. We are afraid. So clearly the mindset was not there regarding the change. And then it started to shift a bit. But then they came across a challenge how they should do it, right? And they were looking, oh, there are these companies, they're operating this way since a couple of years, how they're doing this, how our employees are working, etc. So we basically brought together absolutely top-notch experts and said, like, if you want to help this model of work grow, let's come together as like a movement that will help educate the market and show that the best practices, and also that you can achieve not only a business success, but people can be more satisfied, etc., etc. Yeah, so this is our mission, to empower individuals and companies to go remote, but not to make mistakes. It's not that easy, and there were companies that just did it and failed. So we want to learn from these mistakes and help to achieve it in the least painful way.
Of course. So what do you think, based on the conversations you've had and the experience that you have, what seem to be the most common mistakes that companies made, and maybe pitfalls, or even misguided beliefs that they have around remote work? Just from my own experience working in, or freelancing in-house for certain people, they think that when you're at home, you're just doing nothing, or that you're on the DOS. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed, when in fact you end up being more productive, because there's none of the politics of the office, there's no bull, there's no travel, in a lot of ways. You can just sit there, crack on, get your stuff done, and get on with your day, So
exactly, spot on. And this is one of the main challenges. It's called trust. So it's not only related to remote work, but in general to the culture that is within the company or within the team. Do you trust your team, your coworkers, if you don't see them, if they are actually working, right? Doesn't matter if they are in the office hidden somewhere and watching Netflix, or if they are at home where you still don't see them and they can do anything, right? So it all boils down to trust and transparency. One of the biggest challenges, and this is also the feedback that we get from people joining our program, is how to set up the work that you're building the trust through transparency on various aspects, starting from planning your work, planning your goals, milestones, having clear communication that is transparent to everyone, and the list goes on and on. But the common denominator is, do we trust each other? Is what we do transparent? And those are the things that are extremely important. Talking about the culture and the aspect of transparency, I think it's really cool if folks that are listening to us will look up Buffer. They are one of the first movers and like a role model when it comes to transparency. All their salaries are fully transparent. They have a salary calculator. You can look up online their P&L, everything. On the other side, there is a GitLab where all their internal communication is fully fully transparent. You can go to their Confluence and look up everything. So those are the kind of edge case scenarios, but that shows you what is the direction where you should go to start building the right processes, the right behaviors, mindset within the team. Also to hire right people, because I'm not saying that everyone is born to be a remote worker or a manager that is managing the distributed team. Some folks have certain predispositions that it's easier for them to transition. For some of them, it's a longer learning curve, but definitely it's worth trying. But again, don't do it yourself. Learn from others to increase your chances of success.
I agree with you there. I mean, Buffer is definitely a very edge case scenario in terms of how transparent they are. I don't think I'd be as on board with being as transparent as them. But, looking at when you're talking about things like culture within the company, definitely. I mean, working at Shopify, they take things like that very seriously, and how things are communicated, planning your work, all these things are hugely important, as well as the communication tools that you use. I mean, lots of businesses who work remote seem to rely heavily on Slack as being one of the main communication channels. Not saying it's the only one, but it's definitely up there with a popular option, because you can have different channels for different things.
And actually, if I can add something to that, we are not using Slack. One of our philosophies that we actually learned from Doist is an asynchronous communication, really thinking about communication that impacts your work-life balance, or I call it work-life blend. So we are actually using a tool called Twist, that is designed more for asynchronous flow, and this is also one of the aspects of communicating in a distributed environment, that not only everything should be written down and crystal, but also we need to keep in mind that yes, remote work has a lot of advantages, but there are also potential disadvantages that you need to try to avoid, like, for example, burnout and mixing your private life with your professional life. And one of the ways how you can try to overcome it, or even like prevent this from happening, is to I still haven't figured out how to separate my private life from work life, so maybe I should not be speaking about it. But like in theory, tools that and actually in practice for people that figured it out, tools that you're using for communication and ways how you communicate. So what are your policies around it? Really impacts your life. So to give you an example, we spent the first 6 months of this year in Asia. So like 2 months in Vietnam, 1 month in Cambodia, 1 month in Thailand, a bit of time in Hong Kong, while part of our team was in Europe, but part of our team was in the US. Collaborating with people where there is like 15 hours difference is very challenging and basically impossible if you have only a synchronous flow, right? So even if you don't have this edge case scenario around time zones, asynchronous communication really helps to be more efficient and not to be distracted, and positively impacts the workflow simply. So I strongly recommend on learning a bit more about that. It helps my team at Remote How.
Oh, it sounds interesting. And speaking of teams, when it comes to hiring and scaling your teams, what were some, how did you go about it, and what were maybe some growing pains that you had originally when you started around and had to look to hire?
So actually, not only out of our pains, but also out of pains of our partners and clients, we will be launching a new product. So we kind of felt this pain ourselves. So when we got our first fundraising, our pre-seed round last year, and we started to scale the team, we felt what companies hiring remotely feel. So on one side, you're entering a global talent pool. But on the other side, you're swamped with applications that are just not a good fit for you. And actually, you don't really know who is the perfect hire for you when it comes to a remote worker. And then this is a first layer. So having the access to the pre-vetted talent when we are talking about full-time workers, not a freelancers, was something that we experienced ourselves. It was a challenge, and then our partners had the same. And then the other topic that is right now becoming really, I think, if you look for international hires. So coming back to the challenges, definitely on the company side, in theory, it's easy to get tons of applications, but then it starts to be very time consuming and also hard to say who is the right fit, also based on the culture that you have internally. Spoken with multiple HR people at remote companies, and they see this culture fit as one of the main challenges. Culture fit, and also the aspect if a person is ready to work remotely. And then on the other side, from the talent side, there is such a huge need to find remote work all over the world that there are like hundreds of thousands of people applying. That it's hard to stand out.
I agree. Just on that, I personally, even when it came to applying at Shopify, I replied with videos,
Yeah,
and that
very
stood
smart.
out. Like I literally just shot videos. Reply into the HR. I just shot a quick video at the reply and then embedded it in the email. And they said it to me. They're like, that stood out above everybody else, that I was willing to do that. And like you're saying, just doing something to stick out, because it's getting more competitive. Like it is getting more competitive to land remote jobs. Yes, it's brilliant. More companies are embracing it, but more people want it as well. So at the end of the day, it becomes sales at that point. Like you have to sell yourself as the right person for that job.
Yes.
In a competitive marketplace.
Yeah.
So,
congrats to you.
Yeah, no, but what do you feel? So, based on the experience and working with these companies, like what has been, some of the things that maybe made people stand out in their applications? Is it things like that, like doing, you'll often see something like, oh, send us 1 minute video of why we should hire you versus somebody else. Is it doing little things like that that helps them filter through, these applications quickly?
If you can repeat the question one more time, because something was bringing up.
Yeah, sorry, it cut off there a minute ago as well, so we had to come into a separate room. But anyway, don't worry, this will all be edited out anyway by the person. So, no, what would be your tips for somebody who is applying for a remote job? What is one of the main ways you've seen people able to break through the noise and get to to the top of the HR person's pile?
It's a very tricky question, to be honest. I think that the common thing in general is to, as you mentioned, to stand out and do something exceptional, and don't follow the same path as you were applying for let's say 9 to 5 office job. And it can be either a video, it can be a direct outreach to some people at the company, not maybe even HR, but just to chat. How does the company look like from inside? What's the culture? To basically start learning more. It's kind of it might remind you of a sales process where you first need to better understand your prospect, and then based on this information, you are crafting your outreach strategy, right?
I'm 100% on board. The episode with Niall Doherty, I think it was episode 22, part 1. I did 2 parts with Niall, and he recommended reading a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And it is, I've been reading it. It's unbelievably good. And it talks about this. It's about who's your ideal, who's your dream 100, who are your dream companies you want to work for. Make a list. Add their employees, send them a message, like get on their radar, cold call them, cold email them, like do, in a respectful way, but you know what I mean? Like it's like there are ways that you can do it, and it'll often take multiple touch points before they're like, oh, okay, this person, like, let's give this person a go, or let's at least talk to them. So I think selling yourself, because that's what you're doing at the end of the day. If you're looking for a remote job, you are selling yourself, your skill set, your personality to, work at Buffer, Shopify, Hotjar, wherever, you know what I mean? That,
Absolutely. And if I can add something to that, this is like rather long-term strategy, but it will help you not only to get the dream remote job, but just will help you with your professional career in general, like building your personal brand and building your expertise, but with like an online presence expertise is also a way to go. Like you're an amazing example. You're besides your full-time job, you have a passion to run podcasts and to talk with other folks and experience to talk about their point of view. And this is exactly what can help you to achieve this goal, because you're doing something, you're going the extra mile, you're showing that you're self-driven, you have something else that you're cooking besides the 9 to 5 um, tasks, right? This is just an example. I'm not saying that everyone should start doing podcasts, but that shows the potential employer that you're different, that you're basically person worth chatting with.
Of course. I mean, I recorded an episode earlier on with Daniel, and he does a lot. He's $1 million freelancer on Upwork. He's done $1 million in sales via Upwork, or as a freelancer. Sorry, not all on Upwork, but he talked about how having a blog was one of the key differentiators between him and everybody when he started, and he just had like quick little tips, little short articles, but that's what made him stand out when pitching for work. Yes, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It doesn't have to be YouTube videos, but even a simple website, that it's like, look, I keep a website, I keep it up to date. That makes you stand out, compared to other people. It's like, oh, this person has skin in the game.
Exactly.
They're learning all these skills and they're willing to put themselves out there. I mean, it doesn't even have to be your own website. I interviewed a girl called Eva, and she's a freelance writer, and she just uses answering questions on Quora and using Medium, and like those are her two. So she's like, I don't worry about my own website. But she's got like millions of views on Medium and Quora, and she's like, I know how to write. Here's my stats from these websites, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm interested. Changes the conversation then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the proof that you can execute. This is what remote work requires. You need to be able to execute. You need to focus on the outcome. It's not just being at work. It's producing, right? Yeah.
What has helped you, personally, you and your team to grow remote how? What have been the strategies? Was it social media? Is it SEO? Is it, podcasting, YouTube? What has helped you to grow the business to where it is now?
Couple of aspects. So first of all, talking with smarter people. In the beginning, it was just my wife and I was approaching people on LinkedIn and just starting conversations about remote work. Right from the beginning, when we realized that there is a challenge with the mindset and lack of knowledge on the market among decision makers, we decided to run the Remote Future Summit. So there was a lot of stuff that helped us grow the brand from the beginning by speaking to potential subject matter experts, to basically speakers of the summit, right? And here the platform that we used was LinkedIn. And then we are 1.5 years later, and I have like over 8,000 very engaged community, a lot of partnerships that we built, clients that we acquired came from LinkedIn. But from the fact that we not only build these relationships, but also deliver the value. So we are experimenting with a lot of new stuff. We recently been given by LinkedIn access to the beat for their LinkedIn Live. That's very converting very, very good. We're doing a lot of.
I seen today actually that they are now offering voice messaging to first connections as well. So you can send little audio snippets. I only learned this today. Maybe it's been around for a while, but that's pretty slick. You know what I mean? I was reading this. It was a Mailshake, which is a tool I use for cold email outreach for SEO campaigns, and their blog, which is a very good blog, mailshake.com. I'm sure /blog or something, but it's a cold email outreach tool. And, they're talking about, they often do strategies on cold outreach, really similar to what you're talking about here. You had this idea, you wanted to get in front of companies. It was cold outreach. They didn't know who you were. So it becomes a sales process, outreach, follow up. And yeah, so you can do that. And now you're saying that there'll be LinkedIn Lives as well, which I'm sure will be huge for events. If you think about that from an event standpoint, like, any events that are happening, doing LinkedIn Lives would be huge for that, because it's a B2B platform primarily,
Oh, yes, absolutely. And as we already had two editions of the summit, and the last summit, we experimented with some live sessions. We didn't use LinkedIn at that time. We used YouTube Live with Slido, so people can also like interact with each other, ask questions, and then upvote them, which is also a very good tool for events, not only online ones but also offline ones, but where people are shy to ask, so they just or upvote others. So coming back to your initial question, definitely building relationships, but smart way. So not just doing cold mass outreach to whoever and then let's see if they will respond, but really personalized outreach. It sounds obvious, but really it worked also in our case. Other aspect then we were able to implement is co-marketing. So out of nothing, after couple of months building credibility, building relationships, we ended up on blog of Asana, blog of Dribble. We were in newsletters of like Tourist, and we were invited to different industry events like the Next Web, etc. So that also helped us a lot to grow the traffic from partners. So I strongly encourage you to think how you can deliver the value to communities of your potential partners. Don't focus on your product, and then the synergy will come. I would say that just like in general, building relationships through different platforms with having in mind that you should always try to speak with people that will challenge you. So don't be afraid of being challenged. This is what helped Remote How. What was also really helpful for us, but this is like an ongoing thing, when we were starting co-marketing partnerships around, for example, guest blog posts. This is what helped us build up backlinks, obviously, and continuously grow the organic traffic. Then regarding also the SEO part, we've been featured by several publications around remote work. Like, for example, we are monitoring Everyday Haro. Just a couple of weeks ago, we've been featured by American Express blog, for example. There are certain ways, if you have the brand and the credibility to be an expert on something, to build up your exposure and then benefit from that in the long term.
It's brilliant. Haro is a brilliant publication. For those listening maybe who don't know, it's help a reporter out, and you sign up, and it's basically, if there's reporters, journalists for all these different newspapers across the world or online publications, and they want, like you're saying, they have a story, they want to feature an expert about remote work, or maybe they want to feature an e-commerce expert or a freelance writer, or maybe you're a travel blogger or something. Like, it's, you essentially would pitch to them based on the story that they're looking to fill. Isn't that how it works? Like, they have like, oh, we want to do a feature on remote work. We're looking for some people. You can kind of like be like, hey, I run Remote How. We run this conference, Remote Future. I'm a perfect candidate. Come ask me some questions.
Exactly. You just need to be very fast.
Yeah, true. Because these people have, they're journalists. It's publications. I was only reading there was an article by a girl on LinkedIn. I can't remember her name now, but she was, talking about doing SEO outreach and getting links from like Daily Mail and Sun.co.uk, all these big, huge like online publications. And she was saying how she went about it. I think it was using BuzzStream or yeah, BuzzStream. I think it is like it's the outreach tool, but it was all about like she explained in her post about these people have a deadline. They have to publish 6 to 8 articles per day minimum. You know what I mean? Like that is their job. So it is your job, if you were trying to get featured, to put it on their plate, hand it to them on a silver platter. They even now have, requirements that every or certain posts have to have a video embedded in it as well. So there was one example that sticks out, and it was like land a dream job testing spas or infinity pools or something. It was this big campaign, probably similar to what you did with the work 1 month in Bali and we'll pay it for you. Like you will get that on the Daily Mail, on all these different websites, because you're doing something extremely unique. And she did it all around. She gave them a video. It was all using like stock footage off, I don't know, wherever you buy stockfootage.com. And, just like made this simple little 1 minute video of like, girls running their fingers through the pool and the sun reflecting off the water and all this sort of jazz. And they got published in all these huge publications, and built links for their client, and who was a spa company who sold spas and infinity pools. Like, it was clever, but it was a lot about what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yes, yes, exactly. And actually, I should have mentioned this myself, but video content huge and is also huge for us. So we are not only using this like for as our product as Remote Health Academy is mainly around the video content, but also we have some like assessments, checklists, whatever, but also for our marketing purposes. So having the right video content both on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook is extremely crucial when it comes to your content marketing strategy. That can be also helpful when it comes to establishing co-marketing partnerships, doing co-branded webinars, Q&As. So yeah, video is huge. You can simply start with doing videos on your own LinkedIn. So you don't need to come up with anything fancy. Then you can take it to the next level and start inviting guests, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, that was also a very significant aspect of our growth.
Yeah, and lots of people are afraid to put themselves on
Oh, you
camera.
should.
I don't do it very often. I should have this. Like people keep saying, it's like, why don't you have videos? I'm like, I hate those videos where it's like 2 screen recordings of people talking to each other. Like I don't watch them, but like just because I don't like it doesn't mean other people wouldn't watch it. But then again, if I'm watching like I don't know, some technical SEO audit, which is the sort of jazz that, gets me excited sometimes. Like I'll sit there and watch it. You know what I mean? I'll watch the guy with his screen or the
Exactly.
girl or whoever it is, or 2 people talking about it or 10 people talking about it. So I guess it's just about creating, even with regards to recording a podcast. I mean, you're missing out on an entire medium, in terms of like if it was on video, you could make little videos out of it, push it out there, Instagram, YouTube. Everybody loves that stuff.
Totally.
Um, so look, when it comes to mentors, and coaches and coaching and things like that, have you? I mean, have you had a mentor along the way, or have you, done a specific course that you feel helped you an awful lot?
So I think my first mentor was my dad since the beginning when it comes to like the business, how to run a business. But then moving forward, I also always tried to connect with people that are way more experienced than I am and listen to them, work with them, and not make mistakes as they did in the past. Of course, I failed and I made a lot of mistakes, but basically to learn from their experience. And of course, I had a couple of mentors. Also, when we started Remote How, it was one of my main key aspects is I was not I was not well known in remote workspace, although I was working remotely myself. So I needed to learn a lot. Also, when it comes to running a distributed startup or startup in general, there were several people all over the world that sometimes I even never met in person, where we shared the same vision of the world, we shared the same values, and they were just helping without any financial incentive. Of course, then later on, if you ask them to spend more and more time for you, then of course and then they see that you're benefiting from this, so your business grows, etc. Then of course it needs to be fair. But in the beginning, if you can find a mentor that will invest in you, let's say 20 minutes every month, 20 minutes every 2 weeks, just to catch up, discuss certain things. Those people are on LinkedIn, and those people are practitioners. Those people are willing to help. And then we are again coming back to the LinkedIn personalized outreach that you can do yourself. So I've never taken any like mentor course, maybe because I always preferred to be challenged and convince people to help me. It was like a fun game that basically puts me in a float state. And then after I convince someone to do something together, then I'm like +1 on energy. I'm a weirdo, so not everyone needs to do that. But certainly having smarter people around you is one of the keys to success, and doesn't matter if it's a business wise or just life in general. So whatever works for you, definitely I would look for such support.
That's brilliant. And look, I mean, like you're saying, you don't have to do specific courses or anything. Like it's about finding the people that can help you where you are at that time, and with the help that you need at that given time. So you've definitely been a huge advocate for using LinkedIn. Not too many of our previous guests have discussed LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn pretty much every single day myself personally. I think it's a hugely undervalued network, especially for putting out, like you're talking about, video content, because so few people are doing it. So if you are in the space of B2B, or even trying to sell your services, LinkedIn isn't to be ignored, I don't think, at this point. So look, I really appreciate you coming on for today's episode. We've just kind of coming to the time now. So if people were looking to find you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Of course, LinkedIn.
Well, I'll make sure to link to everything in the show notes. It's IWOSZAPAR. So can you say your name, because I can't pronounce it?
Iwo Szapar.
Yeah, I thought I'd butcher it if I say it. So. Look, and I'll make sure to link up to all the resources, including the Remote Academy, the Remote Future Conference, and you also have a thing called a Global Work From Day, which I thought was quite interesting, or Global Work From Home Day, which is, quite an interesting concept. But once again, brilliant thing around, you've created a brand with a unique vision, and these are all different ways that they're all aligned, so they're just different strategies to grow the brand, get your name out there, get the business out there, and get that media attention, at the end of the day, which helps to grow as well. So
yes, and at the end of the day, if you're doing something that you not only strongly believe in, that gives you passion, but also helps others / helps the planet. So in our case, those are all four, because remote work is also has the growth of remote work has a positive impact on the environment, and hopefully will also help to combat the climate crisis. Yes, then you're that's a spot on. So there's maybe like one last message to everyone, that if you can, I know it sounds cheesy, but I do believe in asking yourself a question, what you should do, and then start doing this. But it really works.
Absolutely. Look, thank you, and thank you to all the listeners who tuned in. Make sure to leave us a review on iTunes and follow on Spotify. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. Head over to the website to access the resources and links mentioned in today's episode at digitalnomadcafe.com.